For decades, you had two gigantic superhero universes existing right next to each other, but totally, completely separate. On one side, you had this meticulously crafted cinematic story, and on the other, you had a timeline so tangled it became a legend in itself. But now, those worlds are finally smashing into each other. So how in the world do we make sense of it all? Well, it's time to untangle this glorious mess.
I mean, it's the question, right? The one every fan has asked. You've got Iron Man and Cap over here, and then Wolverine and Magneto way over there. For the longest time, they were in two different galaxies. So to really get how they're finally merging, we gotta first appreciate just how differently their stories were even told.
Okay, first up, let's talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU. Think of this as our baseline, our control group. This was a universe built from the ground up with precision and a plan, where every little piece was designed to connect from day one.
Now, this seems so obvious to us today, but back then, this was totally revolutionary. I mean, most movie series are their own little thing, but the MCU? The whole point was that the events of one movie would have real consequences in the next one. They even had an official internal timeline to keep it all from going off the rails.
And this right here is the proof in the pudding. This is the thing Marvel's own tie-in comics officially call Fury's Big Week. And what it shows is that the huge final battles of Iron Man 2, Thor, and the Incredible Hulk all happened within the same 7-day period. Wild, right? This wasn't some happy accident. It was an incredibly clever piece of world building to show us that even while these heroes were off on their own adventures, their worlds were already crashing into each other, all building towards the moment they would finally assemble.
And then, well, then there's the X-Men movies. You know, if the MCU was a perfectly constructed skyscraper, the Fox X-Men franchise was this beautiful, chaotic, and often contradictory pile of spaghetti. And the problems, they start right at the very beginning, with the actors themselves.
So, here's the most glaring issue. The prequel movies, starting with First Class, are set decades before the original trilogy. But the actors playing the younger versions of Xavier and Magneto in the 1990s don't look like they're anywhere close to aging into their older selves, who we meet in a story set just about 10 years later. It's this visual disconnect that kind of tells you, uh-oh, there are some much bigger timeline problems under the hood. And this is where the timeline just completely melts down. The movie Logan explicitly tells us the X-Men are gone, and no new mutants have shown up in years. But the happy ending of Days of Future Past, said just 6 years earlier, shows a school packed with kids. And don't even get me started on Deadpool, who just casually hangs out in a reality that references events that haven't even happened yet in his own timeline.
Right? How can all of this possibly be true at the same time? How can the X-Men be thriving and also be completely wiped out? How can Logan's death be in the past 11 years before it even happens? For a long time, the answer was just, it doesn't make sense. But now we actually have a theory that pulls it all together.
This quote really nails it. When you mess with time, you don't just create a clean, new timeline, you create a tangled web of realities that contradict each other. You create a multiverse. And yeah, it is absolutely a hot mess.
And this whole idea of the multiverse, that's the key. It's the grand cosmic get-out-of-jail-free card that allows for every contradiction, every reboot, every single alternate future to exist all at once without wiping each other out.
So here's the big idea that makes it all click into place. There isn't just one X-Men timeline. There are a whole bunch of them. The original trilogy, that's one timeline. The First Class prequel universe, that's another. The grim future of Logan, yep, its own separate world. Deadpool's universe, well, that's Deadpool's universe. They're all valid, parallel strands of spaghetti in that big, messy bowl.
And if you think that's a big idea, just wait. The comics take this to a whole different level. They have this insane cosmic hierarchy where universes can exist inside other universes, right next to parallel realities, and all of that is surrounded by dimensions that exist outside of time itself. It's like a nearly infinite Russian doll of realities.
Okay, so now that we've kind of sorted out the where of it all, let's tackle another huge point of confusion. What actually makes the X-Men different from someone like Captain America or the Hulk? The answer is all in their genetics.
This is honestly one of the most important distinctions in all of Marvel. It's super simple. A mutant is born with the potential for powers. It's a natural part of their DNA. A mutate, on the other hand, is a regular person who gets powers from some outside event. Steve Rogers got a serum. Bruce Banner got blasted with gamma rays. Peter Parker got bit by a radioactive spider. They weren't born special. Something happened to them. This X gene is the biological key.
The comics describe it as a kind of master switch. It doesn't just give a person one power, it kicks off a whole chain reaction in their DNA, which is why mutant powers are so varied. And this is the scientific basis for Magneto's whole famous speech about mutants being Homo superior, the next step on the evolutionary ladder.
And hey, this isn't just some fan theory we cooked up. This is a fundamental part of the X-Men's world. The idea of the X gene is so important that it's literally taught in science class at Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. It's the definition of who they are. So we've got mutants, and we've got the multiverse. But believe it or not, that is just scratching the surface of how massive Marvel's reality actually is. So let's zoom out for a second and take a quick peek at the truly mind-bending scale of it all. Okay, your brain might melt a little here, but the multiverse is just the start. The comics have an omniverse, which contains all fiction from every company. Then there's a beyond realm outside of reality itself, and even a house of ideas where the writers are basically gods. It's a dizzying thought that reminds us the movies we love are just one tiny, tiny corner of this insane cosmic painting.
And after all that explanation, that brings us right back to today. All these concepts, the messy timelines, the multiverse, the genetic difference between mutants and mutates, they aren't just theoretical anymore. They are the engine driving the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe right now.
And the key takeaway here is that this isn't just theory. It's happening on our screens. The MCU has officially introduced its first mutants. They explicitly used the word mutation for Ms. Marvel and confirmed Namor's a mutant, just like in the comics. And of course, the tangled mess of the Fox universe is literally invading the MCU, with guys like Deadpool and Wolverine walking right through the dimensional door.
That carefully planned, super orderly universe of the MCU is now officially having to deal with the beautiful chaos of the X-Men's history. That big bowl of spaghetti we talked about, it is now the main course on the menu, and everyone's getting a taste.
So the tangled timelines are merging. The mutants are here. All the old rules have been thrown out the window, and with an infinite number of worlds and characters to pull from, the only real question left is, who do you think is going to be the next one to step through that portal?